He's 20 years old, standing inside a stadium that eats pressure for breakfast, and he looks like he owns the moment. Not because he yells the loudest, but because everyone around him settles when he's close. You can trace that calm back to the first time he walked out for Birmingham City at 16, socks down, eyes up, playing like the ball was a friend he'd known forever. There wasn't glitter around it, no fireworks, no hype machine, just a kid doing the jobs grown men struggled with and doing them all at once. Win it, carry it, give it, demand it back. Even then, he wore the number 22 because someone told him he could be a 6, an 8, and a 10. Why not all three? Responsibility found him early and didn't let go. There's a decision in there that most kids don't have to make. Do you stay where it's safe, or do you leave home at 17 to learn a new league, a new language, maybe a new version of yourself? He chose Dortmund in the middle of a pandemic, with empty stands echoing like cathedrals without voices. He learned to lead without applause, to run when no one could cheer, and to keep running when the cameras turned away. At Dortmund, there were nights he wore the armband and looked like he'd been born with it. He'd crash into a tackle on the edge of his box. Then, 30 seconds later, he'd be pointing where he wanted the ball, asking teammates to trust him one more time. You could see it in the way older players listened when he talked, not because of his age, but because every sentence had weight. He wasn't guessing out there. He was taking notes, absorbing the hard lessons, how to lose a key match and still face the press, how to bite your tongue, how to channel that heat into the next run. The harshest lesson is always fate. The final day of the 2023 Bundesliga season should have been the party. It turned into a gut punch. He wasn't fully fit, the medal tugged just out of reach, and the whole country saw that look on his face. Some players go quiet after a day like that. He didn't. He treated it like a bill that was due. Then came Madrid. That shirt doesn't just carry weight, it creates gravity. Champions League nights, 1,000 cameras, and a fan base that knows the difference between a moment and a myth. He walks in, points to number 5 on his back, and you can see the wink to history without a shred of imitation. He's not trying to be anyone else. He's trying to be the version of himself who never disappears when the clock tightens. What makes it leadership beyond his age isn't the goals, even though those came in bursts that bent games back to his will. It's the micro-choices. A teammate shakes his head after a miss. He's there first, palm on the shoulder, quick word, reset. A winger is getting kicked on the touchline. He angles over, draws a foul, becomes a wall for 2 minutes so the team can breathe. When he wins a second ball, he doesn't just clear his lines. He looks up, scans, and turns defense into the first beat of a counter with one pass that tells everyone, think 2 steps ahead. You hear the way he talks after matches, and it never sounds like the parade. It's detail. The press was off by half a second. The gap between lines was wrong in the first 15. We had to be braver on the ball. That's not a speech you rehearse. That's a mind running at game speed, even when the whistle's gone. It's also why coaches trust him with more than a role. They trust him with the rhythm of a team. Think about the environments he's had to command. A World Cup stage at 19, with people at home holding their breath. A Classico with the volume turned up so high, you can feel it in your ribs. A Champions League final against a club that formed him, with all that backstory pressing down. And in each of those, he didn't float to the edges or wait for the game to find him. He walked into the heat. Maturity looks like saying no to corners of the game that tempt you. No to chasing the highlight if it leaves a hole behind you. No to arguing with the ref when the smarter move is to drag your team 10 yards up the pitch and reset the shape. He's had flashes in his past when emotion bit him, when the post-match words ran hot and the fine arrived in the mail. You can see how that carved a boundary line. The fire stayed. The frame around it changed. There's also the way he carries the shirt when things aren't perfect. Shoulder taped, stride a touch tighter, still pointing, still demanding. In dressing rooms you hear about. Not in press releases, players mention that he doesn't go quiet on days when it would be easier to shrink. He keeps the standards the same because the badge doesn't care who's tired, who's 20, or who needs a rest. That's the assignment. We mistake leadership for volume sometimes. He can lift a stadium with a celebration that looks like a conductor pulling sound from thin air, but watch the 5 minutes after. It's legs, lungs, and tracking. It's turning to a fullback and tapping 2 fingers to his own eyes. Watch that run, back shoulder. That's film room talk, done live, done fast. And off the pitch, the responsibility loops back to where it started. Family in the stands, roots that never sold themselves as a brand. He left England a teenager and came back a voice people listened to. But the circle hasn't changed much. It's parents who travelled with him, coaches who told him the truth, and a kid who learned to take care of the small things so the big things could happen. What you're seeing right now isn't a fluke run or a sugar high. It's the product of choices stacked over years trade comfort for growth, learn the language, listen more than you talk, and when history presses on your chest, breathe out and make the next pass. It's what maturity looks like when it has to show up on a scoreboard. And it's why the people around him, the ones who have been in this movie before, keep saying the same quiet line. He's only getting started. So what does that look like on a Monday morning? It's the alarm going off when the sun's not even up, legs heavy from the weekend, and still getting to the training ground before most people have started their commute. It's short, sharp work, then longer work, then video on top of that, and doing it again because the clip you watched on Tuesday night looks different when you slow it down on Wednesday morning. And in a new country with a new badge on your chest, it's a second kind of training too, new words, new jokes, new ways to say to a teammate, "I've got you." People will talk about price tags and shirt sales. They'll grab the headlines. But responsibility shows up in quieter moments, like choosing the hardest club in the world to walk into and asking for the number 5, a shirt loaded with memory. Not to pretend to be someone else, but to prove you're not afraid of the weight. You're telling the room, "I'm not here to play it safe." The first weeks in Spain came fast. A first league game away, noise rolling down from the stands, and he's there in the box, timing a late run that looks simple only because he waited, watched, and trusted the next pass more than the first one. Then it becomes a pattern. 90 minutes stretched to 95, and he's still there. Calm feet, clean contact, picking his spot when other players are just trying not to rush their blood. It's not luck. It's work meeting nerve. And then there are the games that stop the country. The first Clásico, a stadium borrowed for the night. Cameras counting breaths, and he takes a touch 25 yards out and hits a ball that stops time for a heartbeat. Later, he finds space at the far post, the clock nearly done, and guides a header through the one gap that existed. Watch his face before the net moves. No panic, just that tiny pause, the picture forming, the mind quiet. That's maturity you can see. Europe asked its own questions. Form a club on the other side, a sea of yellow and black. And he walks out with a different crest over his heart, a different kind of pressure sitting on his shoulders. He doesn't rush it. He keeps play moving when it needs to breathe, breaks the lines when it needs a punch, and when the second goal comes, he rolls the pass at the perfect speed for a teammate to finish the story. After full time, he doesn't gloat, he finds old staff and thanks them. That's another kind of leadership. But it's not always a night of fireworks. Sometimes it's a winter away trip, the pitch uneven, a defence packed deep, and he's still chasing back into his own half because the game asked for it. A bad touch from someone else, and he claps them back into focus instead of throwing his arms up. He's pointing, talking, taking corners, taking kicks, taking the heat off others by stepping in front of the camera afterward and saying, "We win together. We fix it together." No armband needed to act like one. The body keeps score too. There were knocks, a shoulder strapped, an ankle turned. He learned how to listen to pain and to the medical team, how to say no to the ego that always wants one more sprint. Missing a game hurt, but coming back right is part of responsibility too, because one player's short-term courage can cost a whole season if it's the wrong choice. Maturity isn't just playing through it. It's protecting your future for the people who need you there in May. It carried into the national shirt, where the pressure doesn't wear a club logo, it wears the flag. In a tournament that felt stuck in mud at times, he pulled a moment out of thin air in stoppage time, back flat, legs scissoring, a ball smashed into the corner that dragged a whole country back into the room. Days later, when it went to penalties, he took his walk from the halfway line like it was any other walk, like he'd done it on some quiet training pitch 1,000 times. That steadiness, right there under the floodlights, is what teammates remember. Talk to the people who see him every day, and they'll tell you he's not pretending to be older than he is. He laughs, he messes around, he's 20-something with all the joy that comes with it. But when the whistle's close, the switch flips. He checks in with the physio about the workload, asks the analyst for one more clip of an opponent's pressing trap, picks up a new phrase to use with a fullback who still thinks in a different language. He gives a lot of credit to home, and you can hear why. A dad who knew the rough edges of the game, a mum who moved countries with him so the house still felt like a house. That support doesn't play the pass for you, but it clears your mind enough to make the right one. Even when the noise swirls, there's still a kitchen table where the talk makes sense, and yet the myth-making can get loud. It's easy to build statues out of teenagers and forget they're still figuring stuff out. He seems to get that. You'll hear him push back on the hero talk, redirect the praise, make the big moment smaller so it fits inside the next training week without breaking anything. There's a reason kids copy that open-armed celebration. It's not just the goals, it's the feeling that someone's saying, "I'll carry it if you need me to, and if I can't, I'll still take the first step." You can't fake that for a whole season. Your teammates smell it if it's for the cameras. Coaches talk about him like a piece you can move anywhere on the board and still trust. Some days he's a 10, other days he's a pressing trigger, and sometimes he drops so deep he's practically drawing the map. The trick is he adjusts without drama. He reads the room, then the game, then the room again. All of this looks glamorous from a distance, but living under the lens is a grind. Every walk to the bus is filmed, every touch slowed down, every bad game spun into a theory about your future. He responds by shrinking his circle in the hours that matter: sleep, food, phone on, do not disturb. Those choices don't trend on social, but they cash out in minute 93. And that's the through line here. Responsibility as a chain of small, repeatable decisions, tied together by a mind that doesn't get dragged by the moment. Confidence without noise. Hunger without panic. The best kind of leadership is boring up close, and then it explodes on match day. He's built that at an age when most people are figuring out how to work a laundry machine and a rent payment. That's not a knock on anyone else. It's a reminder of the stakes he volunteered for. Club and country, week after week, with kids watching and old pros judging. That's the life he picked when he left home early and kept choosing the hard road. And still, the story isn't a straight line. There are dips coming, tougher nights, finals that get away, tackles that miss by an inch. Maturity doesn't stop the chaos. It lets you walk through it without losing who you are. That's the test he keeps passing, one decision at a time, as the stage keeps getting bigger. So when the chaos comes, he doesn't flinch at the noise. He circles back to the basics. What's the pass? Where's the space? How do we breathe for 10 seconds and tilt the game? You can see it in those late minutes when the legs are heavy and the crowd's on edge. He still points, still demands the ball, still carries the weight like it was part of the plan. Look at that first big rivalry night in Spain. Away crowd all over him, cameras tight on his face. And he takes a touch 30 yards out like it's a training drill. One clean hit and the whole place goes quiet for half a second. Then he does it again, at the death, calm arms wide, like he knew something the rest of us didn't. That's the part people forget about maturity. It's not just composure when the ball's rolling your way. It's memory when it isn't. A few weeks after a highlight reel, he's standing at the edge of a storm because a last-second header gets waved off. He says too much in the heat, the card comes out, the headlines write themselves. And here's the lesson. You take the ban, you take the meeting, you go again. Not with a sulk, but with a sharper line drawn in your own head.